We are not doing anything terribly exciting. I'm just flying up the coast of California. We left San Diego, I don't know, 20 minutes ago. It's a pretty nice day, and we're in the Cessna 310 from Milviz. And I've been flying this plane pretty heavy since I bought it Wednesday when I had after their live stream. And I have to say, I owned one of these over a decade ago, and I will say that it flies pretty much like I remember. I actually got in it and started it up the first time I put it in the game by memory, and I actually got it running. And supposedly controls are supposed to stay on or in the position you last left them, but that does not appear the case for me. Whoops. They always reset. We'll turn some air on. I may have something set wrong, but yeah, they reset every time. It doesn't stay in the condition I leave it, which they claim it will, but for whatever reason, it's not doing that for me. I don't know what the deal is. This plane has prop swing in the same direction on both motors, so it has a tendency to roll naturally. It's easy enough to trim out. Even in real life, you just a little bit of trim and you never even notice it. But it does like to roll to the right a little bit. It's natural for this plane because it does not have counter rotating propellers. Now I added an add-on, the ship package. And you'll notice the boats down there now have wakes. Now that's not a good boat, it's a sailboat. But you notice with that add-on, the boats are fancier. They look more like real boats, but moving boats have wakes now, which is kind of cool. Just more realism into the game, basically what it boils down to. And I just think the plane is so pretty that I kind of like flying it in third person. I know that's not very realistic, but you know, hey, whatever's fun. It looks really good in VR too. I have fly in VR too. It looks really, really good in VR. And I noticed in MilBiz's live stream, they had the Xbox settings on for everything, and it just looks too arcadey for me to use the Xbox settings. Being I'm on a PC, I mean, if you're on an Xbox, you don't have any choice. But not to use them, you have to know what things are, because it does not tell you unless you have the Xbox control set on. But I just think it looks more realistic when you're changing things just to... Now I have a Leap controller, and I just can't wait for them to add Leap controls in the VR, so I can just reach up and use my hands in VR. So I know somebody's made a mod that you have your hands show up as controllers. It's not what I want. I want to see my hands as hands, and I want to be able to reach up to the dashboard, and I want to press the buttons. Now that may never happen, but you know what? That's what I want. That is what I want. This plane likes to climb. And even though I have the trim pretty close, I have gained here. I set it at about 1,000. I'm not using autopilot. And I've already gained about 300 feet. I was 1,200 feet, and see I gained. So I'm going to trim it down a little bit and see if it makes any difference. And I do have a trim wheel. I'm not using the push button crap. I actually have a trim wheel. But you see the boats down there, they actually have boat wakes. And that just looks so much more realistic when you're flying around water. I think the add-on, you get it in the Microsoft stores for seafront simulations. I think it's $14, right at $14, might be $12. But you know what? If you like to fly around water, it looks so much more real, because instead of the boats just flying out there, floating out there, they're moving, and they have wakes. And the boats it replaces the default boats with boats that are a whole lot better looking than what the default are. They look so much more real. There's cargo ships, there's cruise ships, catamarans. There's 14 boats in the sim itself from Eychimo, and they replaced all of them with better looking models. And then they added the ability of them to have boat wakes. Even sailboats have it. This is a sailboat down there. And even though it's moving slow, you can see it's cutting a wake just like it would in real life. That's just a little sloop rig. And it does make things more realistic. To each our own, I guess. I am not big on adding airport. I do like to add some of the scenery stuff. I've added some of that. I'm not big on redoing the airports. I think Eychimo did a pretty good job of building the airports. I have added a couple small ones that I have flown in and out of, that the small ones, they do so much more detail. But a big airport, it's just not big to me. A big deal. That it needs to be that exact. But I do like some of the scenery upgrades. Just like I'm using Bajen's tree mod. the trees are all upgraded, and most of them are 3D now, and the seasons change and all that stuff. You can actually buy those static mods at the Microsoft store, but if you really want the full feature of the mod, you'll buy it from Begin himself off Sim Market. First of all, it's cheaper. You get 8 seasons versus 4, and I think on the store it's what, $10, so $40 total. And the 8 seasons plus an installer, you get, I think it's $30. Or it was when I bought it. I don't know what it is now. It might be the same price, but you get 8 seasons, which means instead of just having spring and fall, you actually have early spring and early fall or late fall. So you have more variations. And there are masks you can use. I don't use the mask, but it changes the color of the ground, like your regular ground. Like in the wintertime, you know how all the grass looks brown? Well, with a Zobo in the wintertime, it still looks green, but with Bajen's mask, when you're using his mod, they turn brown. So just more realism. It does not seem to affect frame rate at all. Now here we are in the spring, and I love flying to Japan, Washington D.C., and seeing all the cherry trees. Now without this, you see the same color trees everywhere, but see, Bajen adds texture and colors, so you actually get to see what's actually, you know, basically there. I mean, I'm not going to say it's real time or nothing like that, but you can fly in Japan where there are so many cherry trees. It's just gorgeous. Even Washington D.C., flying over the National Monument looks a whole lot different when you see the cherry trees blooming. And just because it's not spring doesn't mean you can't put the spring mod in. It's not like you can't use it, you know. It will automatically switch seasons as the seasons change. But you can go back and install any one you want. You could be in the dead of winter and run spring, or you can run summer. You know, where here in, you know, the default program, MSFS does not have seasons. What you see is what you get, pretty much. You know, their ideal of winter is just dumping snow on the ground, but Jens removes the trees from the leaves and all that shit, so you look like winter trees, not summer trees with snow on them. Just a heads up. I enjoy it. Like I say, I enjoy realistic as far as sightseeing. That's basically what I do most of. I'm not, just like airplane failures, you know, I don't have them turned on. I don't need to play hero when I'm just out screwing around. If I want an airplane failure, hell, I can shut an engine off and land it. You know what I mean? All by myself. I don't need to have to do it when I'm out rubbernecking. Although I do run the sim with everything, everything on. It's fully realism. I mean, I don't have failures off. I mean, I have failures off, but I do not have everything. It can go wrong. I mean, I'm not using auto rudders. I'm not using help me fly. If I use autopilot, I use the autopilot in the plane. I don't use the AI. But to each their own, you know. And I'm flying off a Honeycomb Alpha yoke. I've got Saytech throttles. I've got, what's his name's trim wheels. So I have a pretty realistic setup. I mean, I'm not flying off an Xbox controller where everything changes, you know. You pretty much got to turn on the helpers when you're flying off an Xbox controller. And I also have a joystick I use, and I use it for planes that don't have a yoke, like I've got the F-15, the F-14. No yoke on those airplanes, and they fly much better with a joystick when you're out and about. Joystick's just too sensitive for a plane with a yoke, and a plane with a yoke is, when you're flying it with a yoke, it's just so much more realistic. Feels like you're really flying it if you ever have flown. Where if you use a yoke and you're flying an F-15, it's nothing but a hassle. It doesn't respond fast enough. Unless you're just flying straight and level. But if you're out playing around, doing tricks, rolls, and all that stuff, yeah, yoke just isn't really up to the task. Not that you can't do it, but it ain't the same. And I'm nowhere near pushing this plane. We're cruising about 155 knots. You can get an easy cruise out of it about 170 knots. You don't really have to push it that hard. And it will do 200 knots. You can push it to 200 knots as long as you're not in a headwind. I am also using PMD's upgrade for the 530, Garmin 530. I'm not using it. It puts the features that the Garmin 530 really has back into it. Azobo kind of dumbed it down or cut corners. I don't know what they did. I mean, it works fine, but there's things it won't do that if you've ever flown before that you expect to be able to do with it, and it won't do it. But with a PMD update, and it's freeware, just Google it, and I have to say it works really well. But yeah, I was wondering why I couldn't get the damn thing to do things that I used to do with it, and I come to find out that, well, that's because it got dumbed down. And then PMD, that gentleman, he made a patch for it. And it's a freeware patch. Just put it in your community folder, and every time you use a 530 now, the damn thing works like it's supposed to. Now, if you didn't know any better, see, you wouldn't know it wasn't working the same way. But for those who were pilots and have noticed that your 530s in the planes that it has, like the Seminole, I couldn't never figure out what was wrong with it. Thought I was doing something wrong. Well, I wasn't doing anything wrong. It's just that they dumbed it down. And like I say, if you weren't aware of it, you'd never know the difference. It's just like the 1000, Garmin 1000 they have in some of the planes. They're actually working on an update for it. They have the beta out that they're getting people to check, and they're adding the functions back into it that are not in the game at the, it's a default Garmin 1000. But as I say, if you never used one in real life, how are you going to know the difference? You think it's fine. I just happened to fly before for a very long time, so I've used some of these things, and I found, what the hell's wrong with them? Well, they got dumbed down. A little sloop down there with a green sail. Or at least the green foresail, looks like. And you see the wake showing up. Like I say, it's not a big deal, but the ships are modeled better. They look better, even up close. And the wakes, they're just more realistic. Somebody just blew by me in an F-18. I'd race him, but I don't want to embarrass him. Could get out my F-15 Eagle and see how fast he thinks he can go. Wasn't that neat though? You could hear him. I could hear him coming. The sounds, like I say, it's. I really like Microsoft Flight Sim. And the sim redid all the cargo ships. See how much more realistic that cargo ship looks than the default ones. The cruise ship down there is now straight, made the way it's supposed to. And there's the Queen Mary. There is the Queen Mary. Well, obviously we're all the way to Los Angeles.
India Mike Oscar, contact SoCal approach on 127.2. Good day.
127.2 for India Mike Oscar. SoCal approach Echo Yankee Charlie Hotel India Mike Oscar 1000.
Yeah, the ships just look so much better with this $14 add-on. You can see a lot more detail. And I haven't noticed as many trees growing on them. A lot of trees growing on the ships in port. But you notice I don't see any here in Los Angeles that have trees growing in them. Not that there aren't probably a couple. I mean, I hate anything that costs money, of course, but some things just, yeah, quality of life, I guess. But yeah, they look so much more realistic now. Like I say, it's not a big upgrade. It's just they took 14 ships that the AI used, and they replaced them with better detailed ships, better design. And then out in the ocean, when they're moving, they now have wakes versus just, most of them just sat in one place. Some of them moved, but they, yeah, I can say no wakes, just. People keep telling me that DC X-Plane 11 looks good. After, you know, all you have to do is download all them ortho maps and stuff. You know what? I played X-Plane. As far as looks, it don't even come close. Though I will admit that some of their planes and their flight models may be better. And you can shoot things. You can't shoot things in Microsoft Flight Sim. But the scenery, they don't even with the big 5K ortho maps, it ain't even close. I mean, right now, the ocean here is like glass, but let me tell you, the waves in this game are wonderful. You can say the weather today up here is calm. But if you're wondering why mine looks different, just like I say, I'm using the Gen Seasons. So the trees and the greenery, the colors are going to be different. much more varied. As you can see, I'm trimmed out pretty good. I'm still gaining a little bit of altitude. But in real life, this plane does like to climb. It's not like that's just a sim thing here. This thing will gain a few hundred feet. I don't care how you trim it. You're not right on it, playing with it constantly. It does like to climb. Till you get it about 90 mile an hour, then it likes to fall a little bit. It gets real twitchy at low speeds. Even though it's fast enough to keep it in the air, it gets twitchy. In real life, landing it always kept it. I just used to keep it over 100 mile an hour until I hit the ground. Now, technically, the thing will rotate about 80, 85 or whatever, but it gets so twitchy that it is really hard to stay lined up when you're too slow.
India Mike Oscar, contact Los Angeles approach on 128.2.
So I had a tendency to come in just a little quick.
128.2 India Mike Oscar.
But it worked for me,
Los
and if
Angeles
you're
approach Echo Yankee
and if you're
Charlie
good at
Hotel,
flaring
India
an
Mike Oscar,
airplane,
1,700 feet.
you'll still touch it down at the right speed.
India Mike Oscar, Los Angeles approach altimeter 30.00.
Now, I know some pilots that they flared terrible. It was terrible. They couldn't get the hang of flaring a plane just above the runway. So if they came in quick, they bounced it pretty hard.
Los Angeles approach Echo Yankee Charlie Hotel India Mike Oscar. Request clearance to transition Bravo airspace.
Echo Yankee Charlie Hotel India Mike Oscar, Los Angeles approach. Cleared through the Bravo airspace.
Just a gorgeous day out
Bravo
here.
airspace India Mike Oscar.
But this plane in real life is just a joy to fly, and I'll tell you in the sim, it handles pretty much the same as I remember. It's a lot more difficult to fly than another twin like the Seminole, but a Seminole was designed to be simple. That's why it was such a famous training aircraft for twins. It was just, hell, it was hard to crash that damn thing. And everything works. We're talking study level here. And technically I should have the cowl flaps open on this plane, but you know what? You look at the gauges over there, it doesn't say it's running warm. The ideal open your cowl flaps is to cool the motors down, but even Cessna told you to open the cowl flaps on takeoff and leave the damn things open. But it's just not that damn. I never did that. I kept an eye on the gauges. I opened them when I needed it, and I kept them closed. You know, I don't know. And the cabin is green.
Echo Yankee Charlie Hotel India Mike Oscar, 1,700 feet.
Echo Yankee Charlie Hotel India Mike Oscar, SoCal approach altimeter 29.999, continue as planned.
I did notice that when Milviz had their live stream, they even said don't lower the flaps on takeoff, and I thought, son of a gun, one of those guys has actually flown one of these planes. Because it was a case, this plane likes to climb so well that you just didn't need to use flaps unless you were a really short takeoff, short runway. But a normal length runway, shit, flaps are totally useless. Never put them down at takeoff. Even, 15 degrees is what your first setting in this plane is, and you just didn't need them. Oh, you can use them. It's not like you can't use them. It's just not needed. There's something else to mess with. So I just left them off. Like I say, even the circuit breakers work in this plane. Like I say, we can actually, whatever you want to say, I'd call it study level. But somebody stole the lighter out of it. You see that? They stole the lighter. Now, back when this plane was in production, they didn't have no smoking signs all over the general aviation small aircraft. But see, it's got a socket there for the lighter, but somebody stole it. I probably ought to email Milviz and ask him where my damn lighter is. Yeah, but I probably ought to shoot him an email and say, hey, left parts off my airplane. But yeah, they did an outstanding job as far as I'm concerned. Textures are good. I'm running at 1440p. Let's turn this off. And the plane does get dirty. I just don't have it up real high, but you can see it starting to streak under there. Will cause me to have to give it a bath. But textures are good. See, it's streaking. It's getting dirty. Oh shit! What the hell did I do? Huh, ain't that a bitch? Why was it trying to control the plane? Was I in third person? It shouldn't do that. I'm going to have to look at that because it should not control the airplane out there. And that's obviously what it did. Let's go see what we got in options here. I don't think so. Hard, aircraft systems, failure and damage. I have, icing effect, enabled. Why does that say custom? Don't know why that would have been that way. Navigation aids, I have taxi ribbons on for the simple reason is I don't want to study the airports every time I get up and go somewhere else. I just use the ribbons. What have I got on pilot? I don't. Oh, I've got ATC on automatic, and so I don't have to use it. That's not a big. Why is auto rudder on? Huh. Huh. User experience off. AT voices. Everything's off except G suit. Yeah. What are the basic options? Easy, medium, hard. I don't want to check panels on every startup. So we're going to turn that one off. Oh no, this is the chase cam when you're in third person. I do not want this on. I do not want it on. Don't want the ATC panel open. And I'll open the checklist if I want to. So what would possibly... it's not in there. Nothing in general options would be there. So... flight model? Nope, it's on modern. Yeah, it shouldn't. Let's go back here and see what it says on the mouse. Yeah, I have no idea why it was. I don't see anything that would affect being in third person steering a plane. Nothing. It's all set to look, and that's it. Alright, I don't have any idea why it would have done that. But it sure did make the plane turn really hard there from the mouse, and it should not have done that. I don't know. Okay, well, we're going to take a break for now. It's almost 3 o'clock here. Almost 3 o'clock. So we're going to go ahead and quit the desktop and shut down the